Thank you for calling. Please leave a message.
They build it, that's where I'm gonna go.
By why, I mean what's your purpose? If you're gonna live to be in 2020, you might as well play to be in 2020.
We are one global community.
The digital revolution has just begun.
Martyn, welcome to the Supercharged Entrepreneur Podcast. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Phil. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
My absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. I'm really interested to talk about a bunch of stuff with you today, so let's kind of crack on. I know you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, but you also run the Digital City Festival on behalf of Prolific North. So lots to talk about today. Just give us that first flavor of who you are, Martyn. What's your mission, your purpose, your goal in life?
Okay, start with a tough one. Thank you.
Yeah.
People say if you find something you love, then find a job you love, then you don't work a day of your life. Having been in the industry for quite some time, thank God this isn't on camera because you just see how incredibly old I am. But having been around for a while now, you get to a point in life where you need to do the stuff that you're happy about doing, the stuff that you believe in, the stuff that you know works, and the stuff that you can take people along with on a journey. And for marketeers, that's essentially what we do is we try and influence thousands, maybe millions of people to all do something, one thing, and to do that, we have to influence many, many layers of individuals and organizations and networks to achieve that. So it's, it might be me thinking I want to do something, but actually in order for me to do that one thing, I've actually got to get thousands of other people to do things that correspond to that initial idea.
Yeah. And it's something that I know we've talked about off air about, that synergy between you and I. We're both agency owners, or I'm an ex-agency owner and you're a current agency owner. And our day job is to help companies and clients understand how to connect with their customers and how to create this vision, this movement to get people on board. So I'm really, really, really interested to kind of dig a bit deeper into that a little bit later. But let's just go back a quick step, Martyn. What motivates you? What drives you? How did you get to where you are today?
Most people who don't know what they're doing, but have half a brain, end up in sales. And that's where I ended up. And in my mid-20s, I was in sales within the IT services industry. So early days of understanding how sales and tech work together. And I was really influenced by some marketing people I work with, in terms of one woman in particular, and I can't for the life of me remember her name now, but she used to work for a company called ICL, International Computers Limited. And she had this brilliant way of bringing everything down to its smallest components, yet having the biggest impact with that. And and that for me today still is one of the essential things of great marketing, that you can distill everything down to something really simply comprehensible. I took a degree as a mature student at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, and I was one of the first students through the doors there. So when it opened, and so that degree was in the management route of performing arts. So how you manage record companies or dance labels or theatre productions, but essentially about how you manage creativity. How you'll never really mold creative people, but how you create the environment for creative people to be as successful as they can be. And the other thing that happened, because this was back in 1995, was that this brand new purpose-built college, they showed us around it and said, right, your research is going to have to be on those. And it was computers and it was the internet. And I quickly discovered that I was really interested in the internet. By the time I finished my thesis a couple of years later, I was looking at a number of things, like how much money was coming into the Liverpool region to help develop the cultural industries and the creative industries. And having just taken a degree in creative industries, I'd begun to work out that actually lots of small creative industries didn't have access to this money or knowledge that it was coming in. And so I started doing some work with finding very small companies and saying, I can get some funding for you. I know where this funding is and I know how to help you apply for it. And to cut a long story short, I met a couple of guys who had a web development company. I think in their first year, they turned over £10,000. 3 years later, they were the second fastest growing tech company in the North, Deloitte Fast 50, growth of something like 1,200%, returning over 1.5 million, employed 35 people. So it was that time of the internet, where there was incredible growth. But so that was me then embedded into, if you like, agency life, internet, websites, the digital sector.
Well, I'll jump in there, Martyn, if you don't mind, because I'm a fellow creative. I performed a lot as a kid. I was a singer, and then I kind of stopped performing as I kind of developed my career. So I kind of lost that kind of connection with the creative world. And I came to public speaking in my early 30s, and I thought to myself, I'm a performer. I can get on stage. I can talk. I can present. And you quickly realize that presenting to a business audience is very different to performing on stage. Obviously the fact that you're in the dark when you're on stage is a big advantage. You can't see your audience. Yeah. So a lot of similarities there. But I wanted to pick on a particular point you mentioned, Martyn, around the idea of crafting an experience for your customers is something that I'm really interested in. Yeah. And I wonder what your thoughts are about your experience as an entrepreneur and how you've kind of taken that performing arts mentality, that creativity mentality, and evolved that into the business that you own today. Yeah.
Okay. When I first started working with Prolific North, it was because they wanted someone to lead on the establishment of an e-commerce exhibition up here in Manchester. And within sort of e-commerce, within the exhibition space generally, most exhibitions happen in London and very little happening at scale anywhere north of Birmingham. And Manchester is a global giant in e-commerce, with the brands it has here. And Prolific North, had the foresight to realize there could be an opportunity here. And I ended up as the person who helped create the first e-commerce exhibition, and it was called E-commerce Show North. And in its first year, it was incredibly successful. And it demonstrated to us that the sector needed this. Not everyone who works in e-commerce wants to trundle down to London all the time for, their networking and their conferences and whatever. We then looked at, can we do the same with marketing? We had Marketing Show North, and then we do the same with tech, and we had the third exhibition, Tech Show North. So before I knew it, I'm running 3 different exhibitions covering marketing, e-commerce, and tech. But realizing actually, this is the same audience, essentially. Any business looking to scale will have issues around marketing, they'll have tech issues, and that increasingly they'll be looking for e-commerce. And so that began the process for me of making sure I wasn't just delivering stuff for a client, which I'd been asked to do at the beginning. It's about taking a step back and saying, are we adding the best value here? Are we operating as effectively as we could be? Is this what the market needs? And this journey into delivering 3 different expos took me to a place where I realized actually it should be 1 expo. We also had a location issue because our events were being held at the now defunct Event City near the Trafford Centre, which is the event space is perfect if it's a tractor show or a caravan show or something like that. But for a people-based industry, which digital is, that's sort of the irony. You talk about digital and tech and data and whatever. It's people that drives this industry, and we need to find better ways of connecting them. I came to this conclusion: we need to bring these together. We need to relocate it so that it's in the heart of Manchester, because that's where everyone works. You know, there's, I don't know, 85,000 people working in digital tech and media in the Manchester City region.
Wow.
So why have an event that's really difficult to get to when you could have one that's actually very simple to get to?
Yeah.
And then there's this sort of naming convention. What do you name this? And you know, getting the right name for something is essential to get any sort of momentum behind it. And so what we also looked at was what the city was saying about itself, what Manchester says about itself. And Andy Burnham, the mayor here, when he first became mayor, one of the things he stated was, and I took direct inspiration from this actually, he said, help me make Manchester to become the leading digital city. And I thought, well, I know what I could do. I could put on a festival, because I'd already been looking at things like South by Southwest or Web Summit or whatever, Cannes Lions, and thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could have one event that brought the whole sector together here? And it's not just about doing an expo. Manchester's more than that. You know, Manchester is a festival city. There are festivals happening here all the time, whether it's Jazz Festival or International Festival, Food and Drink Festival. And there was this like gaping hole for, we need a digital city festival. That's what we need. So we moved to Manchester Central. Easy to get to, beautiful to look at and be in. Perfect for us. We got the time of year right. So spring is a good time for us for a number of reasons. And we could see, well, we'll have a festival, we'll have an expo, you know, we could have dinners, we could have networking events, we could have a whole bunch of things underneath this digital city branding umbrella, and they'd all make sense because they're all part of the festival. We launched Digital City Festival to the public, if you like, in September of 2019. We had a launch in Boohoo's offices here in the Northern Quarter, which Andy Burnham spoke at, and our lead sponsors spoke at, and we had the press there. That immediately went into fringe events happening all across the city. So all sorts of partners putting on their own events in their own venues, all under this digital city, and dealing with subjects that we couldn't deal with. You know, we can provide the platform, but we can't provide all the content. So people were doing with things, you know, important things, but beyond the sort of B2B stuff that is core to what we do. Things like diversity and inclusivity and HR and cultural things. Real broad agenda emerging through other partners being involved. And because we get other partners involved, they start doing the marketing for you. They've got more direct connections to their audiences than we have. So this week-long series of events started. We had the exhibition at the heart of that, 2-day exhibition. We had, I think it was nearly 4,300 people turn up for that. We had over 100 exhibitors, about 185 speakers. We had Digital City Awards, which was sold out. We had Digital City Leaders Reception. We had trade delegations coming in from all different parts of the world. We ended up with something that was a real evidence of a city that could work together across the public and the private sector, because they were all comfortable underneath this digital city branding. You know, it wasn't Manchester Digital City. It was something they could all take a bit of ownership of because they wanted to be part of it. And digital city is not a physical city. It's a concept. You know, you can be part of a digital city if you're just online.
Yeah.
And all of this was happening whilst the dark black storms of COVID were converging.
Yeah.
So our event happened a week before the first lockdown. And so those great numbers about attendance, etc., were actually much less than they would have been if it weren't for COVID.
Yeah.
Because at that stage, we already had businesses saying we can't come. You know, and individuals saying we're not allowed to travel. So the last Digital City Festival had to be online. But that's sort of okay, because we can't say we're a digital city and not be able to put on an online event.
No.
It's a bit of a catch-22 that.
Yeah, definitely.
In a way, you can think, oh, let's just hibernate, until everyone's allowed back out again. But that just didn't feel right.
Absolutely. I reflect back on so much of what you said there, Martyn, and it resonates in so many different ways. Everything from having a vision, having a really, really big, grand vision, to the bootstrapping bit, which I think you did, having 3 expos, all maybe a bit compartmentalized perhaps, and then the sort of the realization that bringing them together there was strength in that, which brings us on to kind of the collaboration point. And I think there's lots of cities that are good at this, but I think Manchester is especially good at collaborating and at bringing different parts of the community together under one banner. I really liked what you said about getting the branding bit right, about getting the message right, about getting the I guess the umbrella where lots of different people and lots of different sub communities could kind of feel comfortable under. I think that's a really, really important lesson and important message. And I think the final message I got was around the perseverance bit, around, yes, COVID has been an impact, and yes, COVID has made us rethink how we deliver this exhibition in 2021. But actually the sort of the logical conclusion of, well, if we're going to be a digital city virtually or in real terms, we can do this online. And I think I just wanted to touch on one of those points specifically, Martyn, if you don't mind. What are the lessons you've learned about bringing people together around collaboration from different companies, different sectors? What are the lessons learned?
Sometimes the hardest people to convince are the people closest to you in your own organization. Quite often I'll find that I'll go out and I'll talk to the GMCA, the Combined Authorities, or Midas, or Business Growth Company, or people whose living is intrinsically tied into the well-being of the whole city and the region. They'll get these things quicker from a different perspective. But internally, if you've got people who've been working on the marketing show or been working on the tech show, and you say, actually, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do, you present these changes. Sometimes it's harder to sell them that. They're not in the big picture. They're in the delivery mode for a subset of it, if you like. But it's good practice, actually. So having those battles internally prepares you better for when you're out talking to potential exhibitors and sponsors. So because in that first year, you're trying to get investments from companies who can't look at you and judge you on any sort of track record, because you're saying this is brand new. Believe me, it's going to be great. And it's going to be great because you're going to be part of it. It won't be so great if you're not part of it. And you have to bring everyone along. You have to sell to everyone, and not ignore them. And you have to keep repeating the message, actually, which it might feel tedious, but repetition is really important. You have to keep the brand present. And you have to keep reminding people, this is it, this is what it stands for, this is how you can benefit from it, this is how you can get involved, this is why it's good. We created something brand new, had a really big impact the first time round, and then a whole load of other circumstances potentially threatened to end it all. We're a business events company. We haven't been able to do business events for over 14 months. You think that's a comfortable time for us? It's not. It's been really tough, and we've had to pivot. We've had to develop new products, in tactical response to changing, rapidly changing marketplace.
Something you said there around digital transformation is quite an interesting subject I'd like to explore for a minute, Martyn. And it's something that I do quite a lot of in my day-to-day role. Taking company owners on a journey and fundamentally normally reassessing the core principle of how they do business normally taking them offline to online. I just wondered what your thoughts were and maybe your lessons learned from taking a huge festival that was offline in its first year to online in its second year. What were the challenges and what were the lessons learned in that process?
For lots of companies, they stopped spending anything on marketing. So that's a problem when you need sponsorship. Lots of tech companies and e-commerce companies actually were incredibly busy. So their focus was actually on delivering to existing clients and not on, we've got to go out and find new clients.
Yeah.
What's being created is sort of supply and demand issue. There are more companies now who need that digital transformation. You know, COVID has rammed it home, you know, better than anything else ever could, that their systems weren't up to scratch. Lots of people pivoted to virtual, but a lot of that virtual experience was rubbish. Yeah. You know, with all due respect, you know, it's Zoom calls and, you know, I've seen so many bedroom backgrounds. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to look anyone else's nostrils anymore and see their bedroom. You know, it's not an environment to do business in. No. So when we did Digital City Festival last month, we did a partnership with Media City, and we had a production partner, Badger and Coombs, and we worked with Doc 10, who produced lots of BBC programs, and so we created, as near as possible, a near studio environment, so that the production quality would be extremely high. We worked with another company, Pixite, who provided us with a massive LED screen, and we changed the whole sales pitch, if you like. This was about producing a piece of evergreen content that would be broadcast quality, and it's back down to the performing arts roots. It was like, well, we've got a stage, we've got lighting, we've got the PA system, and we're going to help you create a piece of content. In the old days, it would have been 20 minutes talking to a theatre of 60 people and trying to get some leads from that. Yeah. Today, in that digital only environment, it's how can you be persuasive to an audience that one flick of the finger, they've gone back onto Netflix or Facebook, or they've gone somewhere else. And so it's about helping create the best quality content and then putting it on a platform. So we now have a new Digital City network, which is open 24 hours a day, every day of the year, where people can go back in and access this content. And if you haven't, go and do it. There's this legacy now of really high quality content, where if you need to know Cisco's view on smart cities, or Roke's view on cybersecurity, or Screen Page's view on how to become a direct-to-consumer business, you know, there's that content's there, and it's permanent now virtually. Whereas in the old days, you'd run an in-person event. Yeah. If you weren't there, you'd missed it. That's it. Yeah. I saw on LinkedIn this morning a chap that I know went to his first networking event in person, and this is what we're recording May 21. So in-person events are just starting up again, and you can see the excitement and the energy in the room. And I don't think you can replicate that online. Well, you definitely can't replicate it. And it's a different experience. And you know, I've run my training courses for the last 5 years, and in the last 12 months, I've taken them online. And, you know, I'm very, very keen to get them back into a physical environment as soon as possible. But do you know what? I've thoroughly enjoyed the challenge, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the different energy. And it is a different energy. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's just different. And I think, just to finish off, Martyn, I wanted to get your perspective on in-person versus online events. What's the future? What's the balance going to be? What are we going to be doing in 1, 2, 3 years' time in terms of our event schedule? It has to be hybrid. You have to give people the choice, whether to attend in person or to access the content virtually. But also with technology, if you're running late for an event, if there's a headline speaker you want to see and you're traveling to that event, you still don't get to miss it, because you'll be able to get your iPhone out and see the start of that presentation and be watching it as you wander through the exhibition hall and take your seat 20 minutes late or whatever. So it's not just I'm either there or I'm somewhere else, you could be going there. It's that your content becomes omnipresent almost, but not all content. So what we'll be doing is we'll be differentiating between some of the more marketing-led stuff, which is essential for expos, but normally is more time sensitive, versus some of the bigger conversations. So next year we're launching a new Digital City Summit, and it'll be looking at the big issues that cities face as they adopt more technology in all the delivery of services to people, to places, to the infrastructure, whether it's low carbon or traffic management or water quality or whatever. It's how they're doing on that journey. And these are big issues that in the old days might have just been on telly, but now actually we can get the change makers, the leaders in the city together to present Manchester's view on this. And the other thing is we're building more on the festival. So the virtual event also allowed us to do more cultural things. So we had DJ Woody, we had Graham Park doing a Hacienda set, and we had live music, we had bands playing, and next year that will all be real. When you come to Manchester for Digital City Festival, there'll be gigs, there'll be restaurants, with stuff going on specifically for the festival.
And you know what, Martyn, that brings me to probably the most important point of today's chat. I think having a vision and having great quality is really, really important for businesses, for entrepreneurs. But actually the energy, the passion is the second piece. And I think Manchester especially is really good at bringing that energy out. But the third point is collaboration. And I think when you've got a really clear vision and you can infuse a load of energy into that vision, then you need to get the best people you can working round the table, working together. And I think that's where the real magic happens. And I'm really, really optimistic that we're going to come out of this COVID lull. And I'm really, really hopeful that festivals like Digital City Festival will be part of that catalyst to drag us all kicking and screaming back into the real world and back out of our Zoom screens. There's so many great lessons there, Martyn, and I'm just really, really, really keen that people, embrace some of the ideas and the theories you come up with there. And there's some really, really just fantastic ways of approaching business at large, let alone a digital or an events business. Just to wrap up the chat, Martyn, what would be the one lesson, the one piece of advice you would give an entrepreneur or business owner for the coming 12 months?
If you believe in it, stick with it. The easiest thing to do is to accept rejection and wander off and do something else. If you can listen to your gut and something is right, you've got to carry on. The rejection is just another step closer to the acceptance you need.
Definitely. And in this post-COVID hybrid working world, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to challenge you, and they're going to say that's never going to work. And I 100% agree with you, Martyn. We've got to persevere, and we've got to say, no, there is a new normal. It's an adapted, evolved normal, but there are changes we're going to have to make, and you've got to stick with your vision. I completely agree. Martyn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn a bit more about what you do and how you can help?
Well, thank you, Phil. Likewise. I'm really easy to get hold of. You Google Martyn Collins Digital City Festival. That's another one of my achievements. I'm all over Google. Martyn at prolificnorth.co.uk is the email address. The LinkedIn, I'm an absolute tart on LinkedIn, so please connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to keep up to date with how things progress. Brilliant.
Well, I encourage everybody to be in part of the Digital City Festival, and check it out on the website, check you out on the Prolific North website as well. Martyn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Phil. I look forward to meeting you in person at Digital City Festival next March.
Imagine that. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martyn.